has an individualized plan with identified goals and objectives used to prepare the student in making the transition from high school to work or college. So this is for older students. We start out with the last one, younger kids, infants, toddlers up to preschool. Then we have it for the older kids. And now this is for children by the age of 16. They need to have a plan. What are they going to do when they finish school? Are they going to move to college? Are they going to move to work? This is a plan for them that needs to be implemented. In 1997, Individuals with Disabilities Act, PL 105-117, state and district-wide assessments are required for disabilities. And this is what we talked about earlier. You have to have more than one assessment to determine if a child has a disability and to place them. General educators are required to participate in the IEP team. And this is, like I said earlier, I participate in the teams for the children that are mainstreamed into my classroom. I participate in those IEP meetings because it is very important for me to give feedback on how the children are doing in my classroom and what I can do to help them in addition to their other classroom and their other teacher and their aide. General education curriculum available for students with disabilities. So, like, that's the students coming into our classroom and receiving general education curriculum. After a due process hearing, students who violate student code of conduct can be removed from the present educational placement. So this is saying that if students are not following the code of conduct, they may be removed after a due process hearing. More assessment tools are available and permissible. So this showed that we have more ways to assess children, and they're approved. They're allowed to use these different assessment tools. Expelled or suspended students are still allowed to receive services according to their IEP. So even if a student does something at school and gets expelled, they still are allowed to receive services. Because they're kicked out of school does not mean they're not allowed to have services anymore. They're still allowed to receive services. So in 2001, No Child Left Behind Act, PL 107-110. This is also known as Elementary and Secondary Education Act. All students must demonstrate proficiency in mathematics, reading, and science, including students with disabilities. Children in grades 3 to 8 must participate in annual testing. I can tell you that my son is now in 6th grade, but when he was in 1st grade, he heard about this testing that he was going to take in 3rd grade, and he stressed out for 2 whole years about this testing he was going to have to take in 3rd grade. And he just worked really hard, and he did fine, and he's done fine in all this testing, but it does put a little bit of pressure on the kids when they know they're being tested. But if their teachers are meeting their expectations, they will do fine, even though it's sad to think that some of the kids are stressed out by all the testing that they have to take. A few children may be exempt because of their IEP. Some students who are on an IEP may be exempt from taking these standardized testing from 3rd to 8th grade. The goal for assessment results is to translate into instructional accommodations. So all of these children take these tests, the tests are assessed, and they determine what holes do we have in teaching? Where are we missing out on helping these children? It's the school's responsibility to figure out what can we do to bring these grades up, and how can we help these students better achieve this goal, meet this goal that they need to meet. And if the schools do not reach, they must reach yearly progress goals. And if they do not reach progress goals, they can get funded and get some help to meet those goals. And then their school can get a grade depending on how their school is testing. And public is notified of the performance of the schools. So in some situations, students may be able to move to a new school if their school is not meeting the goals and the performance that they need. And so this is kind of to help keep the teachers on track too, to make sure that the teachers are taking care of the needs of the children, meeting the needs of the children, and adjusting. How do they need to adjust? Where are the learning gaps that the children have? And what can we do to help these children do well in their annual testing? In 2004, Individuals with Education Improvement Act, PL 108-446. Educators must be highly qualified and meet state standards. The educators need to have their degree, they need to have their certifications, they need to meet the standards in order to be an educator. The statute of limitation was imposed on parents. That meant that there's only a certain amount of time that a parent can go back and disagree with something. If that statute of limitation is done, the parent has no recourse in the actions for whatever that situation was. It's meant to align special education services with larger national school improvement efforts regarding assessments, standards, and accountability. Response to intervention, RTI, is implemented. RTI is something that we use at our school, and it is a phenomenal tool for us. We meet together with all of the kindergarten teachers. We have our counselor there, our principal there, our special education teacher there, our speech pathologist there, and we go over assessments. We do Literacy First at our school, and we also do STAR 360 testing. So when we go to these meetings, we pull up our STAR 360 scores, we pull up our Literacy First scores, and we determine which children really need our help, which ones are struggling, can we figure out why they're struggling in this area, and then we have people that can help us. We can ask the other professionals in our building to help us. For example, this is not necessarily along the lines of those scores, the assessments, but I've had a child who her speech is a little hard to understand, and her mom really wants her to be assessed for her speech. And she was assessed in pre-K, and now her mom thinks that she's not where she needs to be in kindergarten. So at an RTI meeting, I reached out to my speech pathologist and I said, this mom is really concerned about her daughter's speech. Is there any way you can come assess her on her speech and see if she qualifies for speech with you? So she was able to come down one day, pull her out, assess her, and then get back to the mom and give her recommendations for the child's speech. So RTI is a great time for all of the teachers to collaborate, talk about what students need help, how we might be able to help them, how are they doing on their assessments. This is a time where we also can put children into Tier 2 and Tier 3 if they're struggling. The Tier 3 students need more interventions. How can we get them their interventions? Tier 2, what can we do to give them interventions and help them to get to where they need to be? IEPs include current level and achievement of student and goals and are written in terms that can be measured. So if we want to set a goal, we have to be able to check to see if that student is reading that goal. So one goal that could be measured is if a child is scoring below 9% on STAR, maybe our goal is to get those literacy skills up so that they can score above a 20% on STAR. So the IEPs have goals for the children that we can measure to make sure they're meeting those goals. 2008 Americans with Disabilities Act, Amendments PL 110-325. This is also referred to as the ADAA. This provides a broader interpretation of the term disability. It extends the list of major life activities to include reading, concentrating, and thinking. So if children are having a hard time with reading, concentrating, and thinking, this now covers that disability. Major bodily functions are also added, such as an immune system. So a down immune system now is qualified under the Americans with Disabilities Amendments in 2008.